When you are faced with great pressure to do a good job, how do you stay focused?
The important thing is not to, screw yourself up mentally. I mean, not to, well, anyway, you know the word for it. You can't be thinking about, you have to be thinking about the work. You can't be thinking about how important the gig is. If you're thinking about how important the gig is, you're just going to crash and burn. I mean, it's going to eat you up. And also, you won't be thinking about the work. You'll be thinking about that, so the work won't be as good. The thing, if you've got a part to play, the important thing to remember is you have lines, you have a part, you have the job. If you've got the job, you got the job, right? So, you just have to do the best you can, knowing that these are the lines I have to say, and this is what I work with the stuff you can control. Don't work with the stuff you can't control, because you can't control whether it's going to be successful. You can't control whether it's going to do for you everything you want it to do for you, whether the right person is going to see it and the next great thing. You can't control any of that stuff. The only thing you can have any sense of control over is the work that you have, the scene you've been given to play with the actor you've been given to play it. Just focus on the small stuff. You just got to stay focused on the details. It's very important. Otherwise, you drive yourself crazy. It's because there's so much pressure. There's just so much pressure. I wish there weren't, but there is.
Can you talk about how your experiences as a director and producer have affected you as an actor?
Well, that's a good question for me. I never had an ambition to be a director, but when I was doing the Waltons, I had the opportunity to direct a lot of episodes. And I did it because I really wanted to learn about what that job was. I wanted to learn about what it feels like to work with actors from the other perspective, from the other side. I mean, I was in my 20s when I did it, so it was like I was a kid, but it was hugely educational for me to direct, because there are from the actor's perspective, you're looking at it. It's really important, and you learn it, and experience is really how you learn it. But when you're in a job, you're in a play, you could say this, I think, about any job you're in, whether it's in the arts or not. You have this narrow point of view about what you have to do. This is my job, this is what I've got to do, and people are either getting in my way, or they're letting me do the job, or these are the questions I have. But it also helps to step back and look at the overall, have a wider perspective, and look at the work overall. Like, how is it going in the office? What's the dynamic in the whole room? What's the, what does everybody else have to deal with? Not just me. What's on everybody else's shoulders too? How do all these people go together to make this thing happen? So that, and for me, directing was a way of stepping back and looking at the big picture in a way that I could see what everybody's needs were, because they were all coming to me for answers. That's the thing about directing, is you gotta have an answer. It's like the one thing I learned is, if you don't know, they come up and say, well, should the sweater be red or should the sweater be green? You just say, well, green. And then afterwards, you'll go, I don't know, I think that's the thing. Change, you can change your mind, But if you don't have an answer, that's when they start going, uh-oh. So you gotta be ready with, the answer. Doesn't have to be the right answer right off the bat, but they gotta know you're in charge, right? It's like, let's sit down and talk about this. Make a decision, think about it. If you need to change your mind, you can do that. But it was great. It was great. You'll enjoy it. I mean, especially if you want to be an actor. It gets you out of that narrow thing of like all your needs as an actor, and you begin to think of everybody else's needs too, which is very important, because it's a collaboration. The whole thing is a collaboration. I mean, how movies ever get made is a miracle. How plays get made is a miracle, but how movies get made is a complete miracle. And all these people working at all these different jobs, and it all goes together. It's astonishing to me. But that requires everybody being sensitive to everybody else's needs. Unless you're James Cameron. What?